Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris Blue Ribbon, and I'm here with my special guest, John Stormm. And John, you've been covering some incredible information tonight. And regarding your martial arts background, it's phenomenal. What have you been doing recently, and what do you do to maintain your martial arts skills?
Basically, I train. I've got a video. I think it's on Witchman 53. Basically how I train. I may use dumbbells and stuff for some kind of resistance training. And I always use resistance training in the directions that I punch, block, or kick. And this, for one, you get your body to remember the move. Of course, after 50 years in martial arts, my body's never going to forget. It's what I am. But for anybody, I mean, the premise works. When you train in resistance in the direction that you punch, in the direction that you chop, the direction that you block or parry a move, and this gives you power and body memory, so you don't have to think about it. It's like Bruce Lee says, when I started, a punch was just a punch, and a kick was just a kick, and then I learned to make my punch kicks and my kicks punch, and now it hits all by itself. The minute somebody does something violent, it's just an instantaneous reaction. So I picture what I'm doing, what I intend to accomplish with this punch. It's the same as for spellcraft. Warcraft and spellcraft. I even got a chapter on that or two in my book on practical witchery. And like I was describing just before the break, where you make them fear and defeat them with fear. Well, they control you with fear. The craft is a craft. It doesn't matter who's using it. It's just a matter of how they're using it that makes this right or wrong or workable or unworkable. I have a chapter called The Premise of the Itch, how to take things that, sensations that you can feel and how to transmit them to others. You're walking down a bad neighborhood at night and somebody looks at you like they think you might be their next victim. And of course that makes you afraid. The only difference between a hero and a coward is they're both terrified. It's just the hero's going to do the right thing in spite of being terrified, and the coward is going to freeze up or run away on account of it. It's going to control him. And you just take that feeling of fear, you deepen your breathing a little bit because the adrenaline's there. Now, an ultra, everybody has, when they're afraid, what they call a fight or flight response. Well, an ultra has been, myself, I've been programmed, and Duncan has, and just about every other major ultra that I know of, we don't have a flight response. You do something aggressive, do something scary, I don't care if it's Godzilla jumps out from nowhere, we're going to fight. We're going to look for a vulnerable spot and focus as much energy as we can into it and try to destroy it, try to take it out. And most of my training is along those lines. I have to be a little bit more careful now with the stroke damage and the things, from the snake poison and the radiation and all that other kind of stuff. But I'm still probably in better physical condition than a lot of 20-year-olds in some ways.
Oh, absolutely. And also, I suspect you probably practice Qigong exercises or something similar to that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The one that's really good for reinforcing the field.
Yes. Well, like I say, it is a holistic type of thing. I like to consider myself a pacifist, but I'm a warrior. At the same time, I choose peace moment by moment. But when somebody decides to use violence to take that away from me, well, then I choose better violence. More focused, more effective, quicker, but like I say, a lot of this power, like I say, knowledge is power. The things that I wrote into my book, Practical Witchery, are designed, it's not an end-all book. It's a beginning book. Each of those chapters that tells you something about something is a place to kind of begin at. You get to the point where you kind of camp out on that chapter a little bit till you understand and you can grasp and you can connect with the truth that I'm telling you. And from there you can go further. Give you a good example how knowledge is power, where you can find magic anywhere and everywhere. I love quantum physics. Mm-hmm. I bring it up a lot in those videos, dimensionalities and perceptions. Mm-hmm. It's the nature of the universe. A witch or a wizard is a curious person. You don't just learn one thing and say, "Well, that's it, and I'm going to go do something else." You're always learning. You're always looking into what makes the universe work, what makes this work, what makes your cake rise. And no matter what it is you learn how to make it better. Well, I pointed out something about the nature of quantum physics, particle physics, that they decided that they learned about. These scientists learned using an electron microscope. They discovered that when they just kind of videoed or something what was on the electron microscope, and that the electrons oftentimes just kind of scattered off and went somewhere else. You know, and they say there's no such thing as one electron. You know, these electrons orbit around this nucleus, but they're not always orbiting around it. They take off. They might even go into another dimension, but they're related to that particular nucleus or that particular atom. Now, they discovered when a person, actually a conscious person, observed the atom, that the electron would be back around that atom. Just the act of observing it, a conscious person observing that atom and that electron would appear right where it's supposed to be. If a conscious person was not, it's on a video or something, it wasn't there until somebody's looking at it. Your consciousness affects everything around you. And in video dimensionalities and perceptions, I kind of show you that, all right, you want to know who God is, big G God, not just the minor gods and stuff like that. I'm talking about the Creator, all right, the Father of all spirits, the consciousness that holds those atoms together and defines them. Well, that little knowledge, now you say, well, how as a mage would this affect me? How would I use this knowledge as power? Well, a lot of people like to think about the legendary mages that could appear from one place and into another. Even in the Bible, there's some people. A fellow named Philip ended up teleporting out somewhere to talk to this Ethiopian eunuch. Mm-hmm. Magic is never against nature. It is always with nature. You know, you don't turn rabbits into rhinoceroses or anything like that. Magic always works because it is the power of nature. It is the power of the universe. There's different laws of the universe, and once you know them, you know how to work them or work within the framework and do things that people aren't aware of. The law of gravity. Well, hey, if I throw this up in the air, it's going to come back down fast, 32 feet per second. But if I throw this airplane up in the air, it flies. It continues on for a while. Wow, is that magic? Is this against nature? No, it's not defying the law of gravity. You know of another law called aerodynamics that incorporates the factors of lift, thrust, drag, and weight to give you controllable flight. It didn't defy gravity because soon as those factors don't work out right, soon as that formula doesn't work, gravity takes over and the plane comes down fast, 32 feet per second, like everything else. All right. Now, going back to that quantum physics, well, we are all made up of atoms. Mm-hmm. Now, there's more than one consciousness going on in these atoms. One is the consciousness of God Almighty, the Creator, and the other one is your consciousness. You're like a little piece of that, and you have this free will. All right, every one of us has free will. So that means we can be good or we can be bad, but we're all sons and daughters of God in a very real way. And that's what, like, Jesus was trying to tell everybody. Because he understood that better than anybody else. Well, there's a good reason for that, but that's beside the point that I'm trying to make right now. Now, suppose you want to be one of those wizards that are able to pop in from here or there to teleport. Now, I've made this work a couple times in my life, and it kind of drives me a little nuts. I'm trying to figure out how I can do it every time, because it doesn't always work. So there's something that I'm not getting right, or something or something that's needed that I haven't factored into it yet. But that act of looking at those electrons, observing them, and they become right there. Now think of it, you're an atomic structure yourself. Suppose you observe or imagine your electrons for your atoms and everything to be somewhere else. In this room, standing in this position. Now, many times if you do that and you fall asleep, you'll astral project. And sometimes people will see you there. Sometimes they will see a physical manifestation, or most of the time they don't hear your voice. But if you get it just right, if you get it completely, perfectly, those atoms, those electrons are capable of transferring there. They do all the time naturally. But you have to push it. You have to use your consciousness to push it. I don't tell you how to do that because I'm not wholly positive how to do that every time myself. It has been done. But the thing is, like I say, if you camp out on different chapters in that book, you get an idea of what's going on. You get a better handle on what's going on. And there's much more that you'll be able to see and figure out for yourself. Like I was saying about being a 5-point type personality rather than a 1, 2, 3, or 4 D-type personality. There's still 6 more dimensions to figure out, but you'll never get there unless you're up there at that 5-point utilizing all of your gifts. The gifts that they have been using knowledge as power to keep away from everybody.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. That's like a psychic.
Now, as a matter of physics, not necessarily good or evil, if we're vibrating higher, because we're tuned and we're connecting, and our empathy is hooked up, and we're connecting with the universe and other souls around us. When that time for that transition, and you know they're getting near it, just about everybody, there's old prophecies, there's new agers, everybody's aware that this is about to happen one way or another. What Christians call the rapture, and that they think it's just going to be church members or anything, doesn't have anything to do with anybody's church membership. It has to do with their connection to either this world or the greater world at large. And, this world tries to keep you in it. You need gold, you need money, you need things, and it keeps you on this physical plane. And we're talking about going to heaven or hell or whatever, but as long as you're locked into this particular plane, you're going to drop lower. When that transition comes, you're not going with it. And I believe this is what most of the prophecies and even the things in the Bible talking about this rapture or such is talking about. And like I say, I'm trying to, the Christians would call it winning souls or something like that, but it's like, no, I don't want to draw you into a church and have you take up a collection or anything like that. I want you to grow into what you're supposed to be. I want you to find out you can get up and walk. You got to crawl before you walk, and then you're going to walk before you run, and you're going to be able to run before you can fly. And you're going to learn certain things about physics that, normally what you know in 3D is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But once you get into 5D and up, you'll find out that the shortest distance between 2 points is a fold in space-time. And you learn how to get from here to there a whole lot quicker and without all these fossil fuels and everything else. The rules change for the better. Each added dimension is a greater factor of freedom of movement. And this is what I try to stage for people to be and to understand this aspect of the craft and gain that power back for themselves and develop it for themselves. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to exercise your own active will. You have to do it yourself. Even if I was there to teach you, you still have to be the one that exerts it. I remember when I had my karate studios, it got ridiculous for a while. I almost hated training American kids than I did some of the Asian kids or the ultras. The ultras knew they had to succeed or they were going to end up being a throwaway. And none of us wanted to be a throwaway. So anytime I said to do something, they applied themselves wholeheartedly. I used to love teaching Duncan. Duncan had no misconceptions about what would happen to him if he failed. So he gave everything his everything, which the more you invest into a thing, the more you get out of it. And ultras, due to the nasty nature of the way that we're kind of brought up, well, we will put everything into it because we don't want to fail for some very, very severe reasons. But Americans that get there and say, okay, they're paying me $30, an hour to teach them martial arts, and they'd say, well, yeah, I'm paying you $30. You do the push-ups. And it don't work like that. You have to work those muscles in the direction you punch, you move, and this gives you a stronger punch. Thinking about it, well, can't we just meditate on it? Well, you need to meditate on it too. But you need to think about it. You need to think about who you are, how you want to affect your world around you, and what are you going to do it. Spellcraft. A spell is a period of time, a set period of time that you set aside to bring about certain influences. Now, those can be occult or those can be physical. They're influences that you know how to manipulate. It could be somebody's political vote or anything else to bring about a desired goal. In martial arts, it's the same thing. You draw on influences. The way you punch, it comes down onto two knuckles instead of your whole fist, so that you get more pounds per square inch in a smaller area, which will fracture bones other than your own, to deliver a punch that is devastating. There's a purpose to it. There's a science to it. There's a craft. Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to teach in my book and get people to really understand the use of craft, all different kinds of craft, or as many as I can.
Right. Yeah. What a
resource. Get them at a beginning point where they'll learn. Otherwise, they're looking for mumbo jumbo and a lot of hoodoo, and just the fact that they don't know what they're looking at keeps them from achieving that power.
I so agree with that. And your book itself, for anybody who's interested in the craft itself and really the sincere, grounded approach to this beautiful design, they really need to look at your book and read it and absorb the energy, because it's a fabulous read. It really is. And, of course, it's on Bookrix, right?
Yep.
And that's for free. They can download it for free.
Yep.
I would really strongly recommend people do that. There's so much misperception with the craft in general. I'm sure you're familiar with that, superstition and this and that. And, everybody's assuming that it's all negative and demonic and this and that. And it's totally just basically lack of education on so many levels.
Yeah. Well, there's demonic aspects of different things. And sometimes you don't know when you're going to run into it. It's same. Everybody is spirits. You see spirits when you see, somebody in a meat suit walking down the street. Right. There's a spirit there. There's a soul. People think, well, I'm this person and this physical body is me. It's like, no, you are a soul, a spirit. You have a body. When you drop this body, when it dies, it's shot, it's run over, it just gets old and useless or whatever, you still exist. And that's why hospitals have so many ghosts. People die and, their body drops and they don't really know what they're supposed to do from there. They're pretty much trapped on this plane wondering, well, what do I do next? Mm-hmm. Where do I go? What do I do? I'm kind of in this dreamy kind of state and nobody's noticing me or anything like that. But as with any spirit, the person walking down the street could be a mugger or your next best friend. Your next newest best friend, so to speak. I remember when I was a youngster, I had a mentor that started showing up when I was about 10 years old. And I won't speak his name. We call him Shabby. It's a nickname. Part of his real name in there. But and he was a mentor to me for a good while till, I became dependent on him. And I thought he gave me more power because sometimes he would take control and I was in a situation where there was a lot of people. I was in a very bad neighborhood. I had 3 beautiful sisters and a beautiful mom. And, my stepdad was a coward. And it's kind of like they go out somewhere, you go with them, and anything happens to them, don't you dare come home alive. And I love my mom and I love my sisters and I understand the things that they fear most about what could happen to them. And my job was to see that none of that did. And sometimes Shabby would be there at my side and says, okay, we're going to take these guys on. And I'd be literally ripping their limbs out of their sockets. And I was a boy. And he gave me this power. And this, I actually already had it through MK Ultra. But he kind of helped me let the dog out, so to speak. Now, over the years, he had a lot of good advice about a lot of good things. And, I know Christians get very scared and spooky about spirits and that, and they move in a way. But the Bible does say in the book of Hebrews to try the spirits and see if they're of God. It doesn't mean try them on for size or anything. It's basically question them, punters and deaths, to understand exactly what their motives are, what's their agenda. Eventually, the voice of Shabby wasn't coming next to me. It was coming from inside my own head. And I'd have these blackouts, and people would say, man, you levitated up the side of that telephone pole, and you did this, and you did that. And I had no memory of it. That was a case of possession. And it was a really tough spot for me because mostly the way witches get rid of one spirit is by getting a more powerful spirit to drive them out. Mm-hmm. And he was a particularly strong spirit. And I was probably the strongest witch out of the witches that I knew, other than maybe my grandma or somebody, and she had already passed away. So I was in a very bad place for a while, trying to get rid of this. So I talk about caution, strongly urge caution when dealing with spirits, but you really have to have some kind of connection of your own first, and a spiritual connection. Many people walk down the streets and they see the homeless people out there and they're living on handouts and they're just marking the time between seasons and nothing more than that. But they don't realize that most people, just about everybody you see, the overwhelming majority anyway, that you see, are spiritually homeless. Mm-hmm. In this world. They're living on handouts. They're given a life in a view that isn't them. It's imposed upon them by society. You need to get a good paying job. You can't be a musician or an artist. You be a star. You need something that'll bring you money so you can get married, buy a house, keep paying all kinds of taxes, and support these people who are better than you are. And this is very, very limiting. And they're homeless. They're not living in their own home. They're unhappy and they don't have that connection. They're living on the handouts given them by their job, and they're just marking the time between seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so well said. Honestly, that is so true. Unbelievably true. And we have a question here. It looks like Olive wants to ask, do you believe when we die our spirit goes to another universe where another body is ready for us on another Earth-like planet?
it's a lot like when you dream, especially if you astral project. You can go anywhere. You can do anything. For at first, your body is going to be a spiritual body for quite a while until certain things come to pass, and then there's going to be another body, but it's going to be an immortal body. So you're going to be a lot like Superman, so to speak, when that part happens. But you're no less real and no less capable of understanding or feeling, the emotions and everything that you've always had, depending on how traumatic it is. A lot of people, like I say, are already controlled. They have no knowledge, no hope. And when they pass on, they're kind of bound. They're chained. We're all pretty much in chains of a certain sort in this world, especially at this time. It's those who have the knowledge to break free. Now, when I pass on, I am not going to be hanging around. I am going to get as close to my maker as I can and avail myself of learning all there is in this universe to learn. And the thing is we have eternity to do it, to go anywhere, see everything, and to be as intimately familiar with it on more than the four dimensions that you're used to dealing with now. You can look in the past, you can look in the future, you can see all kinds of universes. And yes, you can travel there. And worlds without number. And your ability to travel there is limitless, as quick as a thought. It takes a little learning, a little adapting to. But there are, depending on how your vibes are, if your vibes are low, you're going to miss a lot of this. You're going to catch all the worst of it. Mm-hmm. If your vibes are higher and heading that way, that's what you're destined for. Like the psalmist said, I said, you're gods, little g. That you're the sons and daughters of God, the creator, the big G's, the guy who permeates, everywhere present, because he holds every one of these atoms together. It's his consciousness that does it. That's how he can say, Jesus would say, well, look, if he knows even when the sparrow falls, he knows when you're going to fall. He's aware of every atom between you and that sparrow. He holds them all together. He holds you, they talk about the whole world in his hands. No, megaverses. And you're a piece of him. You're a beloved piece of him. He's not a cool, cranky old white guy sitting on a throne. He is bigger and better and more profound than that. And so are you. We just have to get you where you understand that.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Well said. And, when I look at all of this with a transition when we depart from this world, what comes to mind for people who have been tagged with these, implants and things like that through psychotronics, I've said this before, and I'm really curious insofar as what it does to the vibrational signature at the time of the transfer, and will that hold the evolution or the expansion of that being back from where they need to go in the universe?
It does on many. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't on all. Our life is about our choices. Will and word, there's your power. A witch's power is in their unbroken will and word. When you have that's the power of your spirit. That's the power. You've actually got the power to break free of that. I choose not to be a murdering machine for my government. And I don't care how nice or bad these guys are, I am not benefiting, giving any kind of plus to these devils in human flesh that's controlling much of this world paradigm today. That's my choice. Grandma, I used to have people tell me that because of some obvious ancestry, that I was damned. I'd stand no chance of heaven or being at one with God or, being on the same wavelength or anything like that, because my my origins are somewhat demonic in nature, but Grandma would always tell me, my life is about my choices. My choices is what defines me. It's like, yes, I am a master martial artist. I am a masterful killer. But moment by moment, I mean, sometimes I see somebody, I meet somebody, I don't like them. I feel like I want to smash my fist into their face and, just knock those skull fragments into their brain and put them out of my misery. But I don't. Why don't I? Because I choose not to. Why do I choose? Well, it's like that question. Is a man a thief because he steals, or does he steal because he's a thief? Inside, is that what he is? Your choices. Yes, you can be a thief. If you choose not to be a thief, you are heading for the higher vibes, and you're fighting it. This is an act of strength. You are exercising force against those lower vibes, so you're going to go higher. As soon as you drop this mortal coil, those chains are unshackled from you, and you will go where you will, where you choose, where you have been choosing. It'll be natural for you to do so. People think a ghost is supernatural. No, they're very natural. Your body doesn't operate without one. Mm-hmm. It is a very natural thing, and it'll be natural for you. If those are the way you make your choices, you choose to love people. You choose to do your best to make your circle of friends and acquaintances as beneficial as you can. You're naturally going to be inclined to rise above it. Mm-hmm. When the material part is taken away from you, you're going to go where you're inclined to go. Same is said for the people like the Rothschilds, Obama, and everything. They're not going to the same place. They may talk a big act, but it's a big difference between talking about it and doing it, mm-hmm. and exercising the power to resist and do what you will.
Exactly. And where do these evil units go? Where do you think? What kind of a hell or whatever? What do you think happens to these things? These people?
I've traveled planes. I even got a chapter in there about rifting. The Celts used to think of just like 3 planes or 4. The lower one below this is called Anu. It's a very hellish and dark plane. And when you rift into it, you can always tell, because if you thought the place you was before was dirty and hostile, it is far more so in Anu. And that's not even hell as bad as it gets. There's many planes below and worse than that. When you travel upwards in vibration, you hit Gwynedd. This is the fairy plane, the spiritual plane, where there's beings of light. And one thing you notice is, like, berry bushes don't have thorns on them. There's no mosquitoes attacking you. There isn't trash all around. It's a lighter plane. It's a pretty plane. It's an easier plane. It's a more beneficial type. These people that have done this to the world, they made this world like this. This is done, all of this that we see around us is done by choice, by people's choices, active choices. Their free will made this. This knowledge of good and evil that fell upon all men, this is what it looks like. Some choose evil, some choose good, and you're kind of finding out, well, the evil guys are kind of on top of it right now, and have been for the last couple millennia or so. But they're naturally heading for a filthy plane, darker, nastier, where, hey, these people are pedophiles, they're rapists, they're murderers, and guess what they're going to be with? Spirits that cause all that kind of pain and everything else. That's what they're naturally going to be thinking to. And they're going to find out something, too. Humans are not the top of the food chain, not even close. Mm-hmm. So there are spirits and consciousness. We call them gods, little g, all right, that are all about. There's Artemis, and there's many more than them, and there's beings in between that. but just about all of them are greater than humans. You know, we can have heroes. You know, the heroes of old, the demigods, these are the spirits that excel, the excellent spirits, the spirits that apply themselves. This is what I'm trying to teach in this book. You know, the more you learn, the more power, their knowledge is power, and other things that you can get to develop your own power, your will and word, your unbreakable will and word. Now you're able to excel even above things a little higher than what you've known before, because you were intended to evolve into sons and daughters of God, just like all the rest. They're like, you need to rise to it. Or, hey, I'm just a worm, and that's what you're always going to be.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Yeah, I like I think we've talked about this before, though, how witches stand in circle instead of just kneeling. I mean, we're actually embracing the divinity and the connection. What is your impression of that? I know you've mentioned, you've talked about that before.
On staying in a circle?
Well, insofar as standing versus like kneeling or praying on your knees, the concept of standing.
Well, there's times that I will pray on my knees. It depends on what I'm trying to say, mm-hmm. Or how I feel. Most often I lay on my bed and pray. Mm-hmm. My favorite is I like to take a walk and pray, you know, away from everybody, in the woods somewhere or out in the desert, it doesn't matter, where I can think my own thoughts and I can connect. First, I connect with Mother Danu, because I was raised a Danaan witch. Okay? And, you know, but I will call Mother and Father, because I'm their son. So are you. You just have to grasp that and start acting like it, mm-hmm. and taking ownership of that. And, you know, me, every year on my birthday, I take off and I get out, usually off into some woods somewhere, and then I'm nowhere on this plain, and I attend what I call summer court. My birthday is on July 31st. It's the eve of Lunasa. And I attend summer court, and there's spirits there, and Mother Danu has her court, and I attend it with all kinds of other spirits. And I talk about what I did this last year, what was good, what could I have done better, where did I fail, and we talk about what, as a member of the family, this is the family business, taking care of this earth and these people, because they're also a part of Mother Danu. All of you are built, we're all built of very earthly materials, and for a reason, and I ask her to walk with me when I take a walk, and I'll ask for the Father of all spirits, because I am a child of two parents, and they are not estranged. Mm-hmm. You know, nobody's religion is kind of, you know, there are hopes set from our parents upon what kind of children that we are and what we'll grow into. And I want to grow into the best possible son that I can be, not just to please them, but because I know that I will be the best me that I could possibly be. Mm-hmm. You know, so like I say, it's not just for that. It's like, and that's the family business. Father, what concerns you? You know what? He never said anything to me about dollars, gold, or diamonds, or fast cars, or real estate, or anything like that. And neither has Mother Danu. The things that meant the most to them was creation and things with spirit, because all of these aren't just things. They have a spirituality to them. There's an eternal part of what they are, and it has feelings, and it has, you know, you ever wonder how Jesus could speak to the sea and make it be calm and tell the wind to stop? And you had to hear him, understand who was talking and what authority it had, and decide to obey. Mm-hmm. So, you know, a lot of the old pagans, we understood that stuff. First century, those Gentiles in the Christian church, they were pagans. They weren't Lutherans, they weren't Catholics or Episcopalians or anything. They were pagans. When they saw and they heard some of this stuff from the Master, and he was called the Word, they understood what Christians don't get taught in Sunday school today about who he was and what authority. And even at peril of their very lives, they joined him because they knew who he was and what he had to give them. And not just something churchy, because they weren't churchy at all until about 300 years later, when a fellow named Constantine, who was a king and of the Babylonian mystery religion, a warlock, took over the religion and decided, well, okay, we're going to have the Council of Nicaea. We're going to decide which of these scriptures will be in our Bible, our canonized Bible. And we're going to have priests standing before you. See, which is stand in circles. People that stand in circles don't have a beginning or an end. Their hierarchy, nobody is higher than the other one. Usually when you have a high priest or high priestess, that is one person that is elected to run that for that particular time. Next time, somebody else is the high priest or high priestess. And that was the way traditionally that it was done. But in the Christian patriarchy, in that you've got, they say, well, there'll be, there's only one mediator between God and man, and that's man, Christ Jesus. But they act as the mediator. They have that cross on that altar up there, but they are standing up above you on a podium or whatever, and they're in between you and that cross. Now they say otherwise, but what they show you when they make these, their congregation, their sheep believe, is by example, by standing between you and that cross. You got to talk to me first in order to talk to him. You have to come into this building, because this is the holy place where God can't hear you out if you're sitting on the toilet. And it's like, well, why can't you pray on the toilet? He knows how he made you. He knows your body functions that way. He wasn't ashamed to make you that way. Why are you ashamed to be that way? You pray wherever you connect. Prayer is talking. Meditation is listening. It has to be a two-way thing. You can talk like I'm kind of doing now, or you give somebody else a chance to talk, or let them speak to you. And as you do that in your meditating, you get that empathy going, and not just with God, but with everyone around you. I would prefer not taking your money to the church and giving them. Most people, when they drop some money in the plate, and the church will take care of the poor for them. Yeah, I've done my thing. I put in $10, $20, and yeah, that was my responsibility to everybody else. I wouldn't do it that way. If I had $10 in my pocket and I'm walking down the street and I see a homeless man, and I look into his eyes and I connect with his soul. I see his need. I see his fears. This fellow's going to sleep under a bridge tonight. He's going to be cold. He's going to be worried about rats, dogs, punks, and other people coming to hurt him because he's exposed and he's vulnerable. He's in agony and anguish. He probably misses somebody that he loves, maybe parents, maybe a wife, maybe whatever. You don't know what he's separated from, but you never will until you connect with him. And you see, well, if I just give him the money, he's going to go buy a bottle of wine. Well, see, I wouldn't deny him a nice little buzz before he goes to sleep, so he's not just laying there in terror all night. If it gives him a sound sleep, God bless him. But I might turn around and take a little more responsibility in that and say, hey, you got to be there for a few minutes? Hold on. Go buy him a sandwich. Take that $10. Hey, I got money left over. Throw it in the bag. That $10, give it to him. Make his day. The greatest power given to men and angels is the suffering, and my time's going up, and bring joy.
Okay. And you said you're losing your signal there?
Yeah, I'm getting the bleep now.
Bless your heart.
I'll be losing it sometimes, so...
Okay. Well, John, in case we cut out, I just want to thank you so much for being on tonight, and you're always moving my spirit, and I know you move everyone else's as well. So I just want to thank you very much, and my love goes to you, and I wish you well always. So.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure being on, and I hope we're waking somebody up. I'm hoping they wake up and they learn how to fly.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you're inspiring so many. I just love to hear you speak. I really do. It needs to be heard by so many people. And anytime you want to come back, let me know, because I'd love to have you on more often, quite honestly.
Oh, anytime.
Yeah, and let me know what's going on with you in that scan, and we'll send some good energy your way.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we're not hanging up yet unless you drop that signal. I'm not sure. You say, if you have any idea.
It may do something. I don't know what. It's just, let's see, what's it say here? I don't know. It looks like I got maybe 12 minutes. I can't see.
Wow, you're right on the money then. We're heading, we've got about 10 minutes left, plus or minus, so hey, we're doing pretty good. So anyways, but yeah, I so resonate with that. And they're trying to make it almost illegal to even assist the homeless now. And it's so, the lack of compassion, this monster that's loose across the world is just
right.
Incredibly
we've got to personally connect with it. It's a matter of our spirit. We're doing ourselves good. Karma dictates that everything we do, good or bad, will come back on us threefold. And if you don't get paid back in the right here and now, that's energy and that you'll have in the hereafter. Mm-hmm. What'll help your soul move up and break the chains of this place that these warlocks and sorcerers have put upon everybody.
Absolutely. That's it, breaking the spell.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so far as wards go, what's a good ward for protection for the home?
I still think, I still have a few implements. A very strong spirit of your own will command just about anything else to lead. You have to take ownership of your home. It is your home, and you have to command. Usually we go to the 4 points. We might sprinkle a little salt. Salt has an anti-corruption type thing, and you want corruption out. So you'll use salt at the 4 points, or maybe at the entrance-ways or something, just a little sprinkle, and command that this is yours. You to not just ask it, but command it. It's as your space. And a strong assertion of that is better than a great many types of rituals. I also like burning a little sage or copal, or a few of those are real nice. Take it through the house. But at the same point, nothing replaces a good spirit and a command, will and word, that you are taking responsibility for this house and nothing comes in without your say-so. I tend to allow a few spirits to come and go, but the minute they start acting one way or another that's bad, they're out, just like I would a human guest. Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and if people want to get a hold of you, the best way to do that would be through your, maybe Facebook?
Yeah, that's the one I still connect with, actually daily. I like to get up go up to the library and connect. That is until I get another laptop and get my disability and connect the Wi-Fi here or something like that. And then I intend to get more seriously involved again.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to more. You just need to stick around for a little bit, because I certainly love your work, and I encourage everybody once again to read your book on Bookricks. And that's, we put the link in the chat room, so check it out, everybody, for certain. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? We have a few minutes left.
I don't know. Anybody got any questions?
Let's see here. I'll check in the chat for you real quick. I don't see anything. Oh, looks like we're pretty good. Excellent. Well, yeah, I just want to make sure we covered everything. We did certainly cover a lot of material tonight, and I really appreciate you touching base on the MK Ultra. I know that's not an easy subject to cover, but it's something that I think people need to hear, because so many people are oblivious to how intense those programs were, how abusive they were, and how they still are abusive.
Yep. Yeah. These days they're using more of the throwaways than they are the people that they invested heavily into, like myself and Duncan, and kind of hypnotize them, dope them up, maybe use a chip or other means. And basically the way they do a hit now is, 19 people may get shot, but 1 or 2 of them may be actual assassination targets. Mm-hmm. But because it was random violence, nobody thinks that they were assassinated. He's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But this was serving somebody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't like what's going on at all. And of course, it seems like there's this mass hypnosis happening, and they're trying to, control everyone's psyche. But I think you're right. Your will and word is extremely important.
I know Duncan Miranda and I, the last time we were together, were talking about how amazing it is that, after we kind of broke with our own programming, it's kind of like you wake up and find that everybody around you is zombies. Mm-hmm. and controlled by, media and a number of things, a lot less painful than what we went through, and they seem to be further into it. And I guess because it didn't hurt, they don't see anything wrong with it.
Exactly, and they still have these triggers and keywords that they're using, and I'm sure at some point, they could snap at any time, some of these people, unless they're really
they use it all the time. They use catchphrases, keywords and catchphrases just to get them to buy stuff. Mm-hmm. Little jingles and that, but something that's not a new thing in the craft. Actually, that's also an old school craft. They just didn't use it quite as widely. It wouldn't have been approved of way back when. Right.
Yeah, they're still using it in a form of propaganda and brainwashing. And of course, I know you read between the lines. I certainly do. And yeah, and once again, I'm really grateful you've been on tonight. So I do hope everyone enjoyed the show. And tune in next week when my special guest will be Dr. Richard Allen Miller. He'll be talking about mysticism and the occult as well. And stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dunder and Becky coming up next, of course, to sell you on into the night. And I think we have maybe just a few minutes here left. So any suggestions insofar as I know, just breaking these implants? Is there anything you can suggest to disable implants?
Will and word. It takes a strong will. Like I say, you got to get, the adage at the Delphi Oracle was know thyself. Mm-hmm. Get to know who you are without what the programming is, who you are, what you desire most, what you dream of, what for, and be that and work in that direction, work in your own direction, not in, that means you're going to have to resist the urge to punch somebody's brain pan out or whatever they are pushing you to do. You have to get control of that. A witch's power. Don't think of a witch as just somebody that rides a broom on Halloween. Think a witch is a wise one. Anybody that's wise, even the Bible says, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Be wise. Understand who you are and what you want, what's detrimental to who you are and what you want, and don't do that. Exercise your will and word. This is where your power comes from. Your own will, your desire. You are defined by your choices, and if you choose to do nothing, you chose. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're worth, and that's what your power is. Nothing.
Exactly.
It's always by choice. You have to exercise it. It's like muscles. And, the more you exercise it, the more you push against resistance. It doesn't mean everything's just going to fall down easily before you. You're going to have to work at it. And that will get it. You will do it. If you're unhappy, look for where you're going to be happier. That's basically what I did breaking with the program from Ultra. There was so many things that I had a problem with. And the more I saw, the more I really didn't like it. And I'm getting out of this. I'm powerful enough. They say, well, we're this and that. And it's kind of, no, you're not so much. I am. You made me into what you, to send to your enemies something that they would fear and could not resist. And by rights, by inference, you fear me for the same reason. You made me what you fear to send after your enemies. So therefore, I'm going to exercise that power and be the kind of man I want to be, whether you like.
Mm-hmm. Are you there, John? I think he just got disconnected, folks, but we're just about out of time here. I know he was low on his minutes, and that was an incredible interview with John Stormm, by the way, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I certainly do. He's he's a phenomenal being, a true witch in all forms and designs, and somebody I have so much respect for. I can't begin to tell you how much I respect that man. And I hope that you paid attention tonight and that you will access his website and read his book. It's, people get so superstitious of the craft, and I'm telling you, learn, research, absorb this information. It's incredibly powerful and enlightening, and I can't say enough good things about it. So anyways, we're just about out of time here, but I just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and I hope you did enjoy the John Stormm, and of course I'll have him back definitely. And like I said, we're just waiting here on the next show, but I've got a few minutes here. I don't think I really have any questions, and I kind of really didn't open up the lines or anything for questions. If you guys have anything in chat real quick, well, we're just going to be ready to go out of here in just a second anyways. But also we have the Super Soldier Summit coming up. For those of you who are interested, I encourage you to purchase tickets. That's going to be in May in Vegas, May 29th, 30th, I believe, and the 1st of June, if I'm not mistaken. I will be there as one of the expert presenters. And it's a subject that really needs to be addressed, and obviously Lorian's been pushing ahead to try to get this information and awareness out. I mean, John was one of the early MK Ultra programmed units, and I'll tell you point blank, I mean, he got out of that, and he's a wonderful being. People have no idea. Consider yourselves blessed if you haven't been through some kind of an assault program like that. Consider yourselves blessed indeed, because those of us who have been through any type of a programming, it's hellacious, it's illegal, it should be. And it definitely is just based on, organized criminal activity. As far as I'm concerned, it should be a war crime. So I encourage you to educate yourselves on that once again. And of course, nowadays they have the technology, which is more, it's a real subliminal technology deployed to the stuff. That's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. I will see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Listening to Revolution Radio.